Mutualisms are plus-plus relationships where both partners benefit. And in some cases, these may actually be such an important benefit that the organism has to exist that way. In other cases, it might just be something that's a benefit, but they don't have to have. We've looked at other examples in previous parts of the semester. So, for example, we looked at plant-animal mutualisms that involve pollination and seed dispersal. So, in this case, in the case of pollination, plants were getting improved movement of their pollen for reproductive purposes, and the animal was generally getting food. And same thing with seed dispersal. Plants were getting movement of a reproductive part, and animals were getting food. We also looked at fungal and plant mutualisms. So endophytes were where fungi benefited because they were getting protection inside of the plant and getting sugar from the plant, and they were providing protection to the plant from parasitic infection. In the case of mycorrhizae, the fungi were getting sugar and the plants were getting the benefit of improved nutrient and moisture absorption from the soil. A couple of other examples are mentioned here involving ants. So there's a famous ant, the leaf-cutting ant. They're sometimes called the farmer ants. So they use fungi to digest the leaves that are toxic to the ants. So they actually grow the fungus in their nest, and they feed the fungus chewed up leaves. So they're basically taking care of the fungus, and then the fungus produces a material that the ants can eat. So the fungus benefits and the ants benefit. There's also defense mutualisms where an animal defends a plant. And so, for example, the ants have been known to protect aphids because the aphids secrete a honeydew that they like to eat. So this is sometimes called like the ants being a shepherd because they're kind of shepherding around these aphids, taking care of them. Ants also protect acacia trees. So they nest in the acacia tree, and they actually defend the tree by trimming away any plants that grow into the acacia tree's area. So like if another plant is kind of growing into the tree's area, they'll go over and chew that off so that it doesn't get in the way of their acacia tree. So here's a shepherd ant shepherding its aphids. And this is the ants growing on the acacia. A commensalism is a +0 relationship, +0, where one benefits and it doesn't hurt or benefit the other organism. So one example of this is called foracy, where one organism uses another for transportation. So, for example, there's a mite that lives inside of flowers. And when hummingbirds go to the flower, it gets onto the nose of the hummingbird, the nostrils of the hummingbird, and then is transported to a different flower that way. The hummingbird is not affected by this mite in any way. So the hummingbird is just carrying it. The mite doesn't infect the plant. So in this case, the mite is a parasite of the plant, but the hummingbird is not being harmed by this. So this is a good example of where you have multiple species interactions happening in the same kind of story. So here we have the mite benefiting and the hummingbird not being affected at all. But the mite that we're talking about is a parasite of the plant. Okay, so there's 3 different organisms discussed here: the flower, the mite, and the hummingbird. The commensalism is between the mite and the hummingbird. The mite is a parasite of the plant. We also have commensalisms that involve cheating. So this flower right here is a mimic. It looks like a plant that has nectar. So insects will go into this plant thinking they're going to get some nectar when there actually isn't any. So the bees go in, they try to get nectar, and then they leave, and as they leave, they take the pollen. It didn't really harm the bee, like it didn't hurt the bee to waste its time there. The flower is benefiting because it didn't have to make any nectar and it's still getting pollination. Stickers are another way that we see cheating, this commensalism. So here's a little mouse with this sticker stuck on it. So it's not giving anything to the mouse, and the mouse isn't being hurt either. So, I mean, other than a nuisance, like it's going to have to pick off that sticker, but it's not really hurting the mouse. So the mouse is a 0, and the plant is benefiting because it got its seed dispersed. Okay, so when we say it's not hurting or harming them, remember, it's not like a significant harm. So it can be a little bit of a nuisance, but it's not necessarily, it's not really hurting them. And that's what makes it a commensalism, a +0 relationship.